The Andy Pollin Show.
We got to go after this with everything we got, figuring they're going to come with everything they got.
I'll start off by saying I'm bored, I'm broke, and I'm back.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630 starts right now.
What is the Wemby effect in the NBA? Reggie Miller explained that yesterday on the Dan Patrick Show. We'll get to that later in the program. Also, it's 9 o'clock. It's day 2 of free agency. And people are panicking. Okay. Trey Hendrickson is still out there. It's not out of the question. They spent $100 million on a pass rusher yesterday. Odafe. We'll try to straighten that out as well. Oweh, he comes from the Chargers. They have not signed a wide receiver. There's going to be no drama like last year with Terry McLaurin as they have work things out with Laramie Tunsil. Becomes the first $30 million a year tackle. And, we can just sort of chill out a little bit. The weather's going to be great today. It's going to be pushing 80. Come on, relax. This is the time of year where you always have free agent envy. Well, how come they got him? How come the Commanders couldn't get him? Why didn't they do that? Well, there's reasons for that. And, yes, sometimes you miss on guys, and sometimes you sign free agents, hello Albert Hainsworth, and you really regret it. So let's all chill on that. Just to catch you up on what happened yesterday with the Commanders. Odafe Oweh, who was a former first-round pick from Penn State, was traded by the Ravens to the Chargers at the midway point of last season. He had not had any sacks. He had 7.5 sacks down the stretch for the Chargers, so that's an encouraging thing. He's 27 years old. He's going into his 5th year, and that was the big haul yesterday for the Commanders, 4 years, $100 million. Then they took a corner in free agency from the Lions, Amik Robertson, who's, okay, he's small, but so is Mikey Sanders still. So I think they saw some things that they may like there. It may turn out to be a bust. They gave him 2 years, $16 million. Tim Settle is back. Remember Tim Settle? He's been around so long that he was actually drafted by the Redskins. Yes, and it wasn't the last year that they were named the Redskins. 2018. He's since been to Buffalo, spent the last 2 years in Houston. He's back, 3 years, $24 million, which brings up the possibility that Daron Payne may still be gone. Remember, they did not try to extend him in the offseason. Adam Peters asked about it at the Combine, said, no, we're not going to do that. Doesn't mean that he won't play on the last year of his deal. Doesn't mean he won't be traded. Doesn't mean he won't be released. But you can't have too much help on the defensive line. And 2 of the 3 big signings yesterday were on the defensive line, an edge rusher and a tackle. They also brought back Marcus Mariota. He gets his 3rd straight season as the backup to Jaden Daniels, who has gotten more playing time than anybody in the organization would like, but they know that if he has to play, he can play. And, of course, he's got a great relationship with Jaden Daniels. There was a quarterback who played in the league for probably 15 years. He finally got some starts in his last year with Cleveland. Remember the name Don Strock? Don Strock actually was part of a 2-headed quarterback combo for Don Shula. This may have been Shula's greatest coaching job in getting that team to the Super Bowl. He got there only once with Dan Marino and lost. But to get there with David Woodley, may he rest in peace, and Don Strock as the 2-headed quarterback, that tells you what a good coach Don Shula was. They lost to the Redskins in the big game that John Riggins had, the MVP, 166 yards. But back to long story short, or short story long, depending on how you look at it, Don Strock played behind 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. He played behind Bob Greasy, and he played behind Dan Marino, and he spent, 13, 14 years in Miami, and always had a great tan, probably walks around today without a whole lot of pain, played some, but made a nice living and spent most of his Sundays in very nice weather in South Florida watching the Dolphins play. Not too bad. And if all goes well with Marcus Mariota this year, we won't see him very often on the field, but he's back for a 3rd year. And then maybe the most significant move of the day yesterday was Laramie Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil is going into the last year of his contract. Same thing we had last year with Terry McLaurin. And the Terry McLaurin thing went on forever. And we were at this point last year, and they said, oh, don't worry, we'll get things done. They go through minicamp. He's not there. They start training camp, and he's got a holdout in. And he, remember, he had that Eastern Motors news conference last summer where he said that, he hadn't been hurt in 5 years and wanted to be paid what was fair. He even went to the point of asking for a trade. And finally, they got it worked out without any training camp snaps for him. Didn't participate in any of the training camp practices. And what do you know? He got hurt last year. So they don't want to go through any of that with Laramie Tunsil. Laramie Tunsil is the protector for Jaden Daniels, and he gets it. I've never seen a contract like this. It's $60.2 million over 2 years with the extension, and it's valued at $62 million, I think. I think that's what I saw. So there's some bonus money tied into that. Now, he's playing in the last year of his deal that he signed with Houston this year, but then this would kick in for 27 and 28, and at that point they'll make a decision whether they want to extend him or not. But reality is that's the window there, and the go-for-it window is still in effect with Jaden Daniels on a rookie year. And next season is really the last season that he'll be playing under that, realistically, without an extension. So they are really in a go-for-it mode now. And based on what they did yesterday, no, they didn't blow anybody away. And they still have not apparently shown up in the Trey Hendrickson sweepstakes. But they did address needs on defense, right? 2 defensive linemen with Tim Settle and Adafi Oweh, and a cornerback in Meek Robertson. They still need to get a wide receiver. They probably still need to get a running back. But at this point, day 1 into day 2, I'd say okay. I don't think there's anything to get worked up about. I know that there's a lot of chatter on Twitter. They need to be more aggressive. They had $80 million to spend. What are they doing? What are they saving? Relax. This is not the Dan Snyder days where they would gas up Redskins 1 and go sign anybody, and most of them connected to the New York Jets. No, doesn't work that way anymore. So we'll get to more on that. John Keim on his podcast today with a couple of thoughts on the Oweh signing and the Robertson signing. Plus, Nick Allegretti is back and talked about competing for the center spot, which is his first choice, or he'd be around to play guard as well. I have not watched a whole lot of the World Baseball Classic. I don't know how much of it you watched, but I did tune in last night to see the U.S. play Mexico and was not at all disappointed. The game was played in Houston. It was a sellout crowd. There's a very high Hispanic population in Houston, so there were a lot of fans there rooting for Mexico. On both sides, you're rooting for players who play in the major leagues. So in many ways, this is the American Baseball Classic, but it was competitive. It was chippy, as a matter of fact. 2 teammates got into it. Cal Raleigh, the big dumper who had 60 home runs last year, catching for the U.S. Randy Arozarena playing for Mexico. And Arozarena comes to the plate. Raleigh's behind the plate. And Arozarena reaches out his hand to shake hands. And Raleigh doesn't do it, doesn't go for it. And it appeared something was exchanged between the two of them, but there was no handshake. And then after the game, Arozarena told reporters in Spanish that Raleigh had said, "Good to see you," and then unloaded on him, said, "The good to see you," he can shove it up his bleep. The U.S. wound up winning 5-3. They're 3-0 in pool play. Mexico 2-1. They could potentially meet on Wednesday in this, or maybe tomorrow on this, depending on what shakes out in the next couple of days. But I was very, very impressed with what I saw. There was a pitch clock, but I really wasn't aware of it. Had a good pace to it. With some good plays. Aaron Judge hit a 2-run homer. That's the headline in this. But he made a spectacular throw to nail a runner at third base on the one hit that Paul Skeens gave up. And Paul Skeens is everything as advertised. He is the GOAT right now. Now, GOAT's not the right term because that indicates of all time. He is the best pitcher in the game right now, without question. He pitched 4 innings, struck out 7, gave up only 1 hit, and the 1 hit was after an error that was made at first base, and the runner was advancing and was nailed by the Aaron Judge throw. So anyway, this Bryce Harper, by the way, made the error at first base. This was Skeens after the game with Scott Van Pelt on what he thought of the entire evening, highlighted by the Judge 2-run shot and Roman Anthony with a 3-run shot, both of those in that third inning, and they wound up winning 5-3. This was Skeens on the outing and how he felt about it with SVP.
It's been awesome. I mean, seeing the stadium full, there were a lot of fans of Mexico today, but had some USA chants at the end, and I mean, it was great to be back out there, great to be in a full stadium.
I mean, I get all-star games, that's something you're familiar with, but my guy Stanford Steve says it's just fun to be able to root for Judge. He's a Mets fan. It's fun to be able to root for Harper. He's a Phillies fan. I just wonder what it's like to have a lineup like that, knowing that, when you head out to the mound, you got some pretty loud lumber behind you.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's been awesome to watch them work, obviously play, but just watch how they go about their business. It's been amazing.
What would you say about the plays Bobby Witt made? He was gonna lead our show, but then Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went bananas. So I apologize to Witt, but my God, he's nuts.
Yeah, that was unbelievable. Both plays. The second one, I want to say it was the Kirk one. That might have been the best play I've ever seen live. It's really impressive.
I know that you're an Air Force guy, and you and Griffin Jacks had a bunch of folks there. I saw all the pictures. I saw the social media stuff. But when you were a guest with us back, I want to say it was in the winter off the USO tour, I mean, the opportunity to give back, the opportunity to recognize the best of us, the folks that put themselves in harm's way, but especially for you in the Air Force, to give those people a chance to be there. What's that mean to you, Paul?
That's what it's all about. I said it earlier. We're obviously wearing USA on our chest. We got a country behind us. I mean, you could feel it tonight. And there are a whole lot of people that we're playing for, and all the servicemen and women. The folks that are overseas right now watching the game. Hopefully, this is cool for them because we're doing it for them.
Right on. And when you and I talked then, things have changed around the world since then, so that a little extra meaning representing your nation. I get that, and you know how much it means to them because you spent some time with them. I just want to close with this, Paul. I don't think the USA ever takes a backseat to anybody when it comes to baseball, but there's some other teams that I'm sure feel like they're the favorite. What's the sense you get about that? The chatter among guys recognizing there are some other teams that are pretty nasty too.
I didn't hear all of that. I heard the chatter about us being the favorites.
No, I'm just asking about other teams because let's say it's the Dominican. There's some other teams that I'm sure probably look at themselves and think, no, we're the favorites, or whomever. What's the chatter among your group about other people that might see themselves as the team that will win this thing?
Yeah, I mean, if you're going into this tournament not thinking that you're the favorites, you're definitely not in a position to win it. There are probably a few teams out there that think they're the favorites, and we certainly feel that way. I haven't watched much of the other games in the other brackets, but we kind of have it all, and righty power, lefty power, righties out of the pen, lefty start. We got everything. So now it's just about going out there and doing it and playing well and winning one game at a time.
That's Paul Skeens, 4 innings last night, 1 hit in the World Baseball Classic as the U.S. beat Mexico 5-3 with a 2-run shot by Aaron Judge and a 3-run homer from Roman Anthony. I think, with the influx of Dominican talent and Mexican talent in Major League Baseball, that to see a dominant performance by the Americans is still American pastime, right? There's still that. Not that there aren't great foreign stars in Major League Baseball. In Japan, Buster Olney said this last week on PTI that he thinks Japan is the overwhelming favorite with Ohtani, and we'll see. But what I saw last night was really enjoyable, and I'm going to watch more of it. I believe it wraps up this weekend, if I'm not mistaken, but we're getting close to the end of it. And it has been, at least for me, very entertaining. You heard Van Pelt reference SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and the performance that he had last night. He is just absolutely amazing. And Oklahoma City played a great game with Denver last night at home. They win 129-126 on SGA's three-pointer with 3 seconds to go in the game. He had 35 points, a career high, 15 assists, no turnovers. He also came 1 rebound short of a triple-double. He had 9. I mean, he even said that it was one of the best regular season performances he's ever had. And now, to go past a record, to tie a record that's held by Wilt Chamberlain that involves scoring is unbelievable. Because if you look at the record books, it's mostly the Wilt Invitational there. That is 126 consecutive games for SGA of scoring at least 20 points. Wilt had that from 1961 to 1963. And as you know, the 100-point game took place in March of 1962, so it took place right in the middle of that. And just to see the way he has been so dominant as an NBA star, the reigning MVP, I think you got to give it to him again this year. And he was 14 of 21 from the floor, so 35 points on only 21 shots, and the big three-pointer to win the game for them. Just an amazing performance for an amazing player. And as mundane as the regular season is, the playoffs are really good. And I think there'll be more reporting on this. But there was a news conference, I think he said it last night. Steve Kerr said that the league really needs to cut off 10 games of the regular season. I think most fans would be happy with that. The league, they got bills to pay, and owners like the gate and they like the TV money. But I think the TV ratings would go up if you played fewer games because the games would have more importance. And it just seems to me in all of sports, the ticket revenue is much less significant than it used to be. I mean, we could go all the way back to the days of the NFL where they had home blackouts because they were afraid nobody was going to go to the games and watch on TV. And now we've reached the point where TV money is the big kahuna there, and the rest of it is ancillary. That's where we are with professional sports. So I think when they look at the economics of this long term, it might make sense. It's a tough pill to swallow when you give up 5 home games and 10 games overall in the course of a season, but you might be able to convince the TV networks that you'll have plenty of product to put on, and the product will be better because the players will care more and will have more players playing rather than this silly load management. All right, coming up, more on what the Commanders did yesterday and also an incredible streak that continues for Gonzaga. We'll get to that and more as we continue. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630.
The Andy Pollin Show on ESPN 630, the sports capital.
So my buddy Steve Buckhantz, who did a wonderful job doing the Wizards games on TV for 20 years and has done a lot of play-by-play over his career. At one point, I think he was the voice of Navy athletics. He was a stickler for name pronunciation. He would make sure that he got the name right, and if he was unsure, he would approach the player before the game to find out exactly how he wanted his name pronounced. So that brings us to the top free agent signing by Washington yesterday, and it's spelled O-D-A-F-E. Last name pretty easy, Oweh, O-W-E-H, played at Penn State. He's been in the league for 4 years, played with Baltimore, and then was traded at the deadline last year to the Chargers, where he had a great second half of the season, 27 years old. And you hope to be hearing his name a lot this upcoming season. You hope to hear his name being called in the backfield of the opposing team on a regular basis. Hopefully you get the name right. I've heard it pronounced a whole bunch of different ways, including like Odeby Young. Remember Odeby Young? Who was Odeby McDowell, excuse me. It was Berman who threw in the Odeby Young. It was Odeby McDowell, who was an outfielder with the Texas Rangers. I've heard it pronounced that way. It's either Odafe or Odafe or something else. Peter Schrager, when he came into the league, when Oweh came in from Penn State 4 years ago, was having some difficulties with it and kind of worked it out on the NFL Network.
Shout out to Odafe Oweh out of Penn State. Odafe Oweh. Odafe Oweh. Odafe Oweh. Odafe Oweh. What a performance he had on Sunday night. Odafe Oweh. Ravens PR just sent me a text.
Go on.
It's not Odafe, it's Odafe. 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 Odafe Oweh.
Odafe Oweh. Wow.
Oweh. I love your name. I'm going to say it right every single time on this show moving forward. So I could easily say it, right? I got to say it right here. Wait a second. This just in. What? Okay.
What do you got?
I don't know. We've got some videotape. They want to put on some videotape. What do we got? Producers, put it on. I have no
This
idea.
message for Mr. Schroger, whatever, you know I'm playing. But you've been mispronouncing my name. Just want to let you know how to say it. It's Adafe. Nothing but love, but that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah! I love that.
AFC Defensive Player of the Week, Adafe Oweh. I said it right. Adafe. Have yourself a day. Adafe Oweh. I like that name. You are the fabulous Player of the Week, the best rookie in all of football. Let's see him. What was it again, Kyle?
Odafe.
Adafe.
Oweh.
Nothing but love.
Adafe Oweh. Adafe Oweh. You got that? Okay. How good is he? Well, good enough to earn a contract of $100 million from the Commanders, $25 million a year. I know there's some off-ramps on that, but a 27-year-old edge rusher, you hope to get all 4 years out of him. What does he bring to the team? He brings obvious pressure on the quarterback, but John Keim has more as he took a look at the tape on Oweh this past season.
He's long, 6'5". The dude is fast. He may have lost a little bit of a step because he put on some weight. The dude ran a 4.36 40 at his pro day in 2021. He's got some wheels, so he's a good athlete too. Again, length, athletic. He can play. He's going to play right side, left side as an edge guy. You know, stand up, 3-point stance, whatever. What I like too is that he showed a variety of moves with in this. You go back and watch his sacks last year. You're seeing different moves. You see a spin move. You see a bull rush. Sometimes you see a guy. You see a guy sticking with a play. So it's not some good covered sacks, but you're sticking with the rush, right? You see him using his hands. You see him using his hands and turning the corner and so you see a variety of moves with him that I think bodes well. But you saw a guy making an impact, and that's what they absolutely need here. So I think that was a good move for Washington to get a guy at a position of need. You get Dorrance Armstrong back healthy. Now you've got two edge guys that can rush. You've got Dietrich Wise. You still need more. I think if this year taught you anything, it's that you can't have enough good edge rushers. You're not going to get a Pro Bowl at every play, but can you get maybe another guy in the draft that you can develop as into that role, right? Because you get Javonte Jean-Baptiste back. So you will have more bodies in there because you're getting guys back, but you still need more.
John Keim mentioned the speed for Oweh, 4.37 in the 40 before the 2021 draft. Jerry Rice, again, 4'7". This is a 270-pound man. So he's got, as they say, speed off the edge. The numbers, 17.3% pressure rate. That ranks him 6th in the NFL over the last 12 weeks of this past season, which is really where he had his sprint to the finish, 7.5 sacks for the Chargers after the trade. The defensive line, they may still like to add to that. I think the wild card is Payne, whether he plays here or whether he's released or traded. They need to have options there in the middle. That'll get us to Tim Settle here in a second. But Javon Kinlaw is coming back, had a very good year. Dietrich Wise, that was a signing the other day. He had come here in the offseason. He played with the Patriots, won a couple of Super Bowls with them, got hurt in the second game of the season. So he's going to be back to add to that defensive line. They also re-signed Shai Tuttle, who was a late season pickup with all the injuries. I guess they saw something the last couple of games that they liked about him. And then they also signed Tim Settle. Tim Settle should be a familiar name for you. He was here for 4 years, drafted in 2018, went to the Buffalo Bills for a couple of years, and then the Houston Texans. And he's got 15 sacks and 133 tackles over his 8 years in the NFL. He's from Northern Virginia, probably wanted to be back here. And that will give them some depth as they try to beef up the run game, stopping and pressure on the quarterback as well. Von Miller, I think Von Miller has a chance to be back. He wants to come back. I know he's 36 years old, but he did have 9 sacks last year in a part-time role. So again, it's pressure up front, which makes the difference in the secondary. And to add to the secondary, they got a guy who was not highly regarded. I mean, nobody was really that excited about this name, Amik Robertson. Amik Robertson played for the Detroit Lions, and he gets a 2-year deal worth $16 million. They hope to put him in the backfield with Trey Amos and Mikey Sanderstill. But he's a guy with some question marks. But John Keim took a look at the tape and discovered this about Robertson.
Not a guy that was on my radar. So the other guys I was focused more on, because if you're looking top of the cornerback room, those guys made sense. So let's look at Robertson. And after a couple of things, I was able to watch 2 games of his. And one was against Philly, one was against Dallas. These are the guys he's going to face this year, twice a year. So how did he do in those? I wanted to see him against those guys. One, I knew, according to Next Gen Stats, against Philly, he covered Devontae Smith 15 times. 3 targets, no catches. So 2 broken up plays. So, he did a really good job. I mean, I'm watching it. He did a really good job against Devontae Smith. Against Dallas, I Googled bad, Amik Robertson, bad game. That one popped up. So I'm like, well, let's watch this one. Was it as bad as I thought? No. In fact, some of the bad plays, well, you can look and say, okay, like, yeah, this happened. But it wasn't a case like, oh, he just got toasted or he just got whatever. There were a couple things to contextualize it. Was it his best game? No, but you can contextualize it and say, like, okay, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be when I read this. But, you could have made some better plays here too, right? So, that, whatever. I'll get into that in a minute. Now, I know Ryan Clark tweeted something about him after he signed. So I reached out to Ryan, like, what do you like about him? Because I'm just curious. Like, now he said he's known him for a long, probably since high school. So he clearly has known him for a while, obviously. And then what he did like is versatility. Basically the mentality. The kid fights, all that stuff. And one thing he said that I really agree with, and when watching his film, is the short area quickness. I think that's why he makes a very good slot corner, because of that short area quickness. So that's what, and I should have said this up front, like, that's how they would see him, as a slot corner, but a guy who can also play outside. Mikey Sanderstill can do both as well. And I think they do see him more as an outside corner at this point, who can also play inside.
So there's the breakdown from John Keim, who's been covering this team for over 30 years, and what he thinks of Oweh or Adafe, depending on what you prefer, Oweh and Robertson, the cornerback from the Detroit Lions. Also back, Nick Allegretti, and they had a media availability for him yesterday, and this tells you something about the state of local media. Now it's probably going to change once we get into the season. You got a lot of people on vacation right now, but this media availability was to 2 reporters. And, with the Washington Post going under and the transition to The Athletic, some of the Washington Post people got hired by ESPN, but it ain't what it used to be. I think Nick Allegretti is one of the smartest guys on the team. And he's back right now to compete at center, but also be available to play either guard. Now, they did not get Tyler Linderbaum. He signed with the Raiders, which makes a lot of sense since they're going to have Fernando Mendoza as their quarterback. You like to have some protection up front. Raiders' offensive line not good last year, so he goes there. And Allegretti is in the mix to start at center, which is what he would prefer, as he told the 2 reporters yesterday.
I'm coming in here to compete. We got a lot of stuff to figure out, obviously, over the next few days. They'll be adding some more pieces, so I know that I can play, center, right guard, left guard, whatever it is. I want to compete for a spot. I really, if that, depending on what they do, if that center job is something I can compete for, that's something that I want to do. Really enjoy just getting the chance to compete for a spot, and. Center's a position I played a long time. Haven't had a ton of opportunities to play since I got to the NFL. So if that opportunity is there, would love it. If not, just excited to be back. I mean, it's a really good building. Really excited for Stape and Shane, who are guys that were State's been awesome the last 2 years, and Shane I've known since I was 20 years old at Illinois. So really excited for both of them. State definitely deserved this opportunity, and Shane as well. So excited for them. Excited to have, Wiley back as well already in the offensive line room, and hopefully add a few more new pieces. Maybe keep some guys not sure about all that, but I like the room we have so far, and hopefully add a few more pieces over the next couple days.
And what if you go to center? Like, what do you like about that? What suits you at that position?
I think the biggest element of it for me is the leadership role that centers are almost required to have. Before Jay gets the play call, gets in the huddle, it's my huddle if I'm at center, and just getting the boys ready, getting the boys right for when Jay is in the huddle, communicating at the line of scrimmage. It's really the one spot. It's like if you're at guard, you obviously have your tackle, your center, you talk with the other guard. You're kind of too far away from the other tackle to communicate much. At center, you really get to communicate to all five. Occasionally the tight ends, quarterback. I get to use the skills and the things I've learned in the mental side of football probably the most at center. So I really enjoy that. And then just that's the position I've always played. I was a center my entire childhood, all of high school, and then at Illinois in my last 7 years in the league, I've always kind of been in that. Whether I was starting or not, it was always kind of the backup center. So I love that role. I'm comfortable in it. And if that's open, that's an opportunity. Would love to compete for that.
That's Nick Allegretti back on a 2-year deal. I think it was actually an extension. He had signed a 3-year deal when he came here, so this extends the contract an extra year. And what he's proven is he can fill in, be versatile, center, guard, and has the right attitude. Doesn't complain, and is a guy you want to have around. Plus, he's won before. He came here from Kansas City, and he played in the Chiefs' last Super Bowl championship with a torn pec muscle. Managed to, as I say, gut it out, and they like that toughness about him. So Nick Allegretti is coming back this year. And another thing to keep an eye on for free agency, because it hasn't happened yet, but the 49ers have all but said we're going to release Brandon Ayuk, who something happened there. He cost himself a lot of money, wasn't participating in his rehab, and they were able to void some of the contract money. And he's coming back from a knee injury. We don't know the kind of condition that he's in, but he did play with Jaden Daniels at Arizona State. Made it clear that he really wants to play with him again, so maybe that's going to happen. But when they signed Mike Evans yesterday, the 49ers, that pretty much clears the way to do that. He's 32 years old. He's agreed to a 3-year contract. He's had 1,000 yards receiving in each of his first 11 years, and was only able to play 8 games this past season. So Brandon Ayuk might be the wide receiver that they're planning to sign, and the reason they haven't done it is he hasn't been officially released by the 49ers, but you would think with the Mike Evans signing that pretty much closes the door on that. All right, last night, Gonzaga continued an unbelievable streak. 28 consecutive years in the West Coast Conference Final. They beat Oregon State last night, and they will meet tonight Santa Clara for the automatic berth in the NCAA tournament. Gonzaga, as usual, has only lost a couple of games, so they're going to be in no matter what. But to think that they have had enough gumption, knowing most years that they're going to go to the NCAA tournament, but to still compete as they have in their conference tournament, you got to give them credit for that. Now, I always thought that Maryland's championship in 2002 was helped by the fact that they went out in the second round of the ACC tournament. ACC was stacked in those days with Duke and North Carolina, and you had to go through the gauntlet. You had to play each team home and home. It was different than it is now. And I thought, let them be rested going into the NCAAs. As John Thompson once said, after they cut down the nets to win the Big East tournament, he said, "These are not the strings that I want." He wanted, of course, them to win the NCAA tournament, and they went to the finals 3 times when they had Patrick Ewing and won once. those are the things that you go after. And Gonzaga's been to the Final Four. They just haven't won the championship. I think they went to the final one year undefeated and lost. So Mark Few is still chasing that championship, but this incredible streak of making it to the West Coast Conference Final year after year after year, 28 consecutive years by beating Oregon State last night, and then to now be facing off against Santa Clara tonight. Amazing. Few talked about it last night with Scott Van Pelt.
That's what I'm most proud of, is what we've been able to do for the last 28 years, to not initially be a one-hit wonder and then to not just be a team maybe that kind of hangs out in the NCAA, but the one that advances and wins a lot of games and gets to multiple Sweet 16s. But a streak like this, I mean, these conference tournaments are hard. I mean, we know we're playing in the NCAA tournament, which means the world to us. And the other team we're playing, there's an incredible amount of desperation, that they don't want their season to end. So I'm really proud of how our guys over the years have came out and matched that desperation from the other team and really teed it up. We played great defense tonight.
Mark, you've had teams that have not just NBA players, but, top picks, lottery picks. This team might not have that, but they've got experience and they're connected. And I'm interested in what you value most, the traits about this group that you think will translate well when we get a bracket on Sunday looking down the road at next week and beyond.
Well, I tell you what, I mean, the resiliency of this team, Scott, has been, I've never in 28 years faced this much adversity with injuries. I mean, Braden Huff is a hell of a player. I mean, he's a national award caliber player. And then we had Ike out for several games, so we were missing Huff and Ike. And then we had Worley out for extended times, who's our do everything, defensive glue guy, spirit leader, everything.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just been crazy. And I'm really super proud of our resiliency, and I think that's what's going to carry us. And I think, just our toughness on the defensive end. We played good D all year.
I'm going to close with this. We can see St. Mary's warming up behind you. My guy Stanford Steve and I, we say this is a three-bid league. I think Santa Clara and Coach Sendek's group is a tournament team. I'll give you the chance to stump for that squad that could be your opponent tomorrow night. Why should we know St. Mary's is in. Why should Santa Clara be in as well?
Hey, great call by you guys. The first time I played them, the first thing I said to our staff after the game is that's a tournament team. They have great size. Their guards are really big, and they can get downhill and finish on you. And Herb's just an excellent coach. He's shown that throughout his whole career. And they play a really, really good style. I mean, they're going to come at you and get after you on the defensive end. And they got a terrific freshman in the Graves kid at the 4, who I think was a next level guy. So they're the real deal, man.
That's Mark Few last night with Scott Van Pelt. Yes, Santa Clara did win. They did knock off St. Mary's. St. Mary's has beaten Gonzaga in the final before, but now it'll be Santa Clara that faces them tonight. And I guess win or lose, they get in. I think by winning last night over St. Mary's, that probably puts them in the tournament. And what's happened at Gonzaga isn't supposed to happen in college basketball. Especially a coach like Mark Few, who's had that kind of success at a place like that. You go, well, yeah, sure, let's go to the next level. And he's found something there that just worked for him. And when he says we're not a one-hit wonder, yeah, there are schools that will pop up from time to time, schools of that size. You happen to get the right combination of players, and you make a deep run, and you maybe even make the Final Four, and then you don't hear from them again. To have the remarkable consistency that Gonzaga has had, on top of the just total explosion of college basketball with the NIL and the transfer portal, it's amazing that they've stayed consistent. I would also say this about college basketball, that it's kind of like what's happening with the Mets and the Dodgers. They both spend incredible amounts of money. The Dodgers do it right. They won back-to-back World Series. Mets didn't even make the playoffs last year. And so some of it is, how you do it. Kentucky spent a lot of money. It didn't work for them this year, but you're still seeing these blue bloods in there. Duke is still really good. North Carolina's lost its best player. They're still a possibility to make the Final Four, though not likely without him. Michigan is outstanding this year. Michigan could win the whole thing. I mean, it looks like a Duke-Michigan collision course the way things go, but the NCAA tournament, that's the great value of it, that you don't know what's going to happen on any given game, and somebody hits a miracle shot, or somebody has a bad game, or somebody has a particularly good game. All those things add up. The one-and-done aspect has made it as successful as it has been. But to see Gonzaga in year after year after year, yeah, the competition in their league is not what it is in some other places, but still, when they get to the tournament, they win games, and what they have created in a kind of a hidden spot, like it's a laboratory deep in the woods, and they just continue to crank out successful teams and not send a whole lot of guys to the pros, and even when they do, like Adam Morrison, he was the third pick of the draft, he was a bust. You know, it's just a really great college basketball program. And here's a guy who built it at a time when you weren't supposed to be playing the players, and I'm sure there wasn't a lot of money under the table for Gonzaga. Now that you can play them, they're still that good. Now, when they get to the tournament, they're facing tougher competition in most cases than they faced during the season. Not much they can do about the league. It is what it is. But to make it to the final of the conference tournament, 28 straight years, because there's a natural letdown. You know, you got your eye on what's going to be happening Selection Sunday. Where are you going to go? Who are you going to play? What does your bracket look like? And the tendency to look ahead is there, and he keeps them focused to the point where they make the final literally every single year. You know what's coming up here? August 23rd, there's going to be a Grand Prix around the National Mall. And how many of us have been stuck in traffic at like 5:30 in the evening downtown and thought, man, wouldn't it be great to just zoom out of here? Well, you can. According to what was announced yesterday by city officials, the green flag will drop in front of the Capitol between the Washington Monument. It's 1.7 miles, features 7 turns, including a stretch onto Pennsylvania Avenue before going on to 3rd Street. Drivers will move towards Constitution Avenue, past the Air and Space Museum before racing up 7th Street. Wouldn't you like to race up 7th Street? When's the last time you raced up 7th? No, you schlepped up 7th, and you sat in traffic like forever. And then you go around the National Archives onto Pennsylvania Avenue. Each lap, imagine taking a lap around the city, around the mall, between 53 and 55 seconds with speeds of 180 miles an hour on the 7 turns. Wow. It's been called the Freedom 250 for the 250th birthday of the United States. It will operate as a nonprofit organization through a series of partnerships with local and federal officials. IndyCar's involved, Fox Sports. I guess they're going to televise it. And they're talking about 1 million people there. Well, be free. That'd kind of be cool, right? Be cool. Free tickets to you have to get tickets. So free tickets will be available early next month. No official economic estimates were released, but they're expecting it could be about $100 million brought into the city. You know, of all the things that happen in sports, would you have ever expected that there would be an IndyCar race around the mall? It's not something that would certainly come to mind. I know they've done this in other cities. They've done it in Baltimore before. D.C. tried this once. They had the Le Mans series, which ran the Cadillac Grand Prix, the streets around RFK in 2002. It never returned to the district after widespread complaints from residents regarding noise. No question there. This year's race is not going to be around any residential areas. You know, RFK still remains a neighborhood. It's going to be interesting to see the transition with the new stadium, but it is still actually a neighborhood. This is not going to be a neighborhood, and the organizers will shut down several streets beginning the week before the race. So that would be a good time for you to go on vacation as they prepare downtown D.C. for an Indy-style race. It's not a big racing town, as you know. We don't really have those type of. I guess you can go to Delaware. Dover has racing, but this will be a cool thing to see. I'm hoping they have safety because 1 million spectators, and you see these wrecks from time to time, and wheels go flying off and parts of the car. I hope it doesn't get to any of that, but that's what's in play here for August the 23rd. I wonder why they're having this after July 4th. I think they do something that would be a lead up to that, But maybe that's just part of the extended fun. And then next year we get the draft, 2027, be held on the mall. That should be a lot of fun. I got to hit up Mel Kiper for tickets on that. All right, coming up, we got more free agent talk to get to, and the GOAT debate, which has gained some steam with what Michael Jordan said the other night on NBC. It's the Andy Pollin Show, ESPN 630. If you are in your car, I can accurately report to you that Adam Schefter still has a camera trained on him from ESPN as he looks at his phone to get the texts from various sources, agents, general managers, front office people about what's cooking in free agency. Now, none of this stuff can become official until 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. But the NFL now has what they call legal tampering. They love this. This is what we talk about for days and days at a time of the year where you wouldn't be talking about the NFL. And then by tomorrow afternoon, these deals become official, and you start hearing them, and you go, well, I knew that. That happened on Monday. That happened on Tuesday. Why are they announcing it now? That's just the way they do it. That's the way that it is done. So we wait and see what happens next as far as what the Commanders did on the first day of free agency. I don't think they blew anybody away, but they did get themselves an edge rusher for a lot of money. Oweh, they signed him from the Chargers, 4 years, $100 million, former first-round pick out of Penn State, 27 years old, going into his fifth year. They picked up another corner, Amik Robertson from Detroit, 2 years, $16 million. Tim Settle is back. He's actually a homecoming for him in a variety of ways. Spent the first 4 years of his career here, and he's from Northern Virginia, so he'll be back to help beef up the defensive line. Marcus Mariota has signed up for a third straight year to back up Jaden Daniels, and Laramie Tunsil. We're not going to have any of that mishigas that we had with Terry McLaurin last year. Tunsil has agreed to a 2-year deal worth $60.2 million, and I saw this, I forget who said this on Twitter yesterday, where I saw last year they would have liked to have brought back Terry McLaurin. It wasn't a must. This is a must. You got to have Jaden Daniels protected, and you got one of the best left tackles in the game. He started 14 games for them, and I think it was said late in the season by one of the coordinators said this. He said, this guy's going to get paid. He's going to get paid, and he got paid $60.2 million. Guess Cliff Kingsbury was talking about how valuable he was to the offense, and Tunsil got his money. The first tackle to make $30 million a year, $30 million a year to play tackle. Mariota's coming back for $7 million. He's got incentives that could kick him up to $11 million. Those are incentives that the team hopes he does not reach, because that means he has to play. And the best thing that can happen to this team this year is if we see very little of Marcus Mariota. Not his fault that he doesn't play. That's if Jaden Daniels stays healthy. Made 17 starts plus the 3 playoff games in his rookie year. Managed to play only 7 games last year. So that's going to be big. Before we launch into some of the stuff from yesterday and some of the other things around the league, I just saw this a few minutes ago. Bob Valvano is a friend of mine. He's Jim Valvano's younger brother, and also was a coach for a while. Did not coach at the level that his brother did at NC State, but has gone on to an outstanding broadcasting career doing television and radio. He does analysis for Louisville basketball. He does a whole bunch of games on ESPN. He's had national shows on ESPN, local shows in Louisville. And he tweeted out about an hour ago, he said, "Happy heavenly birthday to my brother Jim, who would be 80 today. That's an odd dichotomy of dying young. I can't even imagine him as an 80-year-old. He'll always be the crazy 30-something running around the court in Albuquerque, or a high schooler who I had to share a bedroom, or a high schooler had to share a bedroom with his little brother. In my mind's eye, he never gets old." I think that speaks to all of us who saw Jim Valvano at the age of 37 running around the court in Albuquerque after Lorenzo Charles put back the missed shot by Derek Whittenberg and shocked the world by beating Houston. And there have been many stories written about Jim Valvano, that he always had a plan, that he had this 20-year plan to win an NCAA championship, and he won it in 10. He won it 10 years earlier than he thought he was going to win it. And then what? He coached for a while longer at NC State and then went into broadcasting. And very sadly, at 47, he had cancer. And he died of cancer at a young age, leaving behind one of the most iconic speeches ever. And I don't want to limit it to just sports. It is, in many ways, what the Lou Gehrig speech was in baseball. Luckiest man on the face of the earth. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. Those are two iconic lines from those speeches which stay with us forever. And when we think of Jim Valvano, we think of an incredible man dying young, and he would be 80 years old today. You know, get your head around that. Get your head around the fact that someone who's, you know, forever young. He's actually forever young. At 37 is an incredibly young age to win an NCAA championship. There have been coaches in that age range who've won. Gary Williams, I believe, was over 50. He was a grandfather. I know that when he won his championship in 2002. See, Gary's 81, 82 now, so that was, yeah. So he would have been in his 50s when he won. And here's a coach who won at 37. And then what? He'd reached his goal, and because of what his fate was, it was so good that he won at that age. You know, if that doesn't happen, if the expected happens and Houston wins that game, and they were monster favorites to win that. Dave Kindred wrote a column that day, said trees will dance and elephants will drive cars, you know, when NC State beats Houston, and they won the game. And that is our indelible image of a young man who's just reached the top of the mountain and pulled off an historic upset, beating a Houston team that, I mean, if you step back now and look at the players who were on that team, you had two of the greatest players in the history of basketball on there, Akeem Olajuwon and Clyde Drexler. They're on the all-time whatever lists you want, 50, 75. They're two of the greatest players who ever played the game, and they lost to NC State, which had a journeyman center in Thurl Bailey. Sidney Lowe played a little while in the NBA. I don't think Wittenberg played at all. You know, that Lorenzo Charles never made it in the NBA. He was a bus driver when he died in an accident. I mean, those are the guys who pulled off this historic upset, and Jim Valvano running around looking for somebody to hug is all a part of that unbelievable story. And to think that he would have been 80 years old today. Wow. Tony and Mike last night on PTI, the moves that had been made in free agency up to that point, up to 5 o'clock in the evening, and with more to come today, and their assessment of what was happening around the league.
Tua Tagovailoa out and Malik Willis in at quarterback for the Dolphins. Tua will reportedly sign a one-year deal with the Falcons. The Chiefs are reportedly adding Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. Mike Evans leaves the Bucs for the Niners, and the Ravens made the big move of the weekend, landing pass rusher Max Crosby from the Raiders for two first-rounders. Wilbon, where do you want to start?
Kenneth Walker.
Okay. You love him.
Yeah.
You love him.
I like Kenneth Walker. I'm a child.
You like all running backs, and you love him.
I like good running backs. A child of running backs. I don't believe running backs are just disposable, and you don't need them. I'm not that guy. And neither would Seattle, because I don't know where they'd be. The defense was great, but somebody had to play on the other side of the ball.
Well,
Kenneth Walker did that.
And okay. Charbonnet did, and Walker did.
Not Charbonnet in that game.
Not in that game.
Because he was gone by then.
That's right.
Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs. They can't just walk out there and tell 15 Mahomes to save them every game. It didn't work last year, and it's not going to work going forward. They have to get him not just help, but real talent, and Kenneth Walker is that. So when I look around these other things, Tua going to Atlanta, I think that's actually okay if he's sort of a bridge starter and you get them back to Michael Penix. I think that could be okay.
We're going to disagree on that.
I like Malik Willis going to Miami. I was impressed with him in Green Bay.
And the head coach there now at Miami was a coach,
yes,
not an offensive
he's used
coach.
To seeing him.
Seen him against his
against
defense.
him, his scout team, day after day after day.
Yeah.
Like that move, even though I wish he had gone to Arizona. But I'm going to go with Kenneth Walker.
All right. If I could start with anything I wanted, I would start with Kyler Murray. But no matter what he does, he can't do anything officially until Wednesday, so I have to put that in my back pocket. Yeah. It's being reported, I think, by the NFL Network that he's close to going to Minnesota, which would be fine. Let me just say this about Tua, what you said about Tua. Tua had no protection anymore in Miami, new coach, new general manager. Nobody had his back, so you knew he was going to go. Right. He's a lefty, and maybe keeping the seat warm for another lefty in Michael Penix. But I think Tua may be better than Michael Penix. I think that may be his job to win.
Okay.
That is not the biggest news to me. And 5 years ago, I would have said Mike Evans going to the 49ers was the biggest news because Kyle Shanahan would know how to get him the ball. But he's
Evans
a little bit older.
What, 11th year?
The biggest news to me is the Max Crosby deal. The Dallas Cowboys wanted Max Crosby. They offered a 1 and a 2. That's a lot. Baltimore comes in having never traded a number 1 ever and trade 2 number 1s, including 1 this year in the top half of the draft. So this is an indication that Baltimore is all in, that they are looking at Max Crosby to be a great fourth-quarter defender, as he has been. They are looking to hand the ball to Derrick Henry because there's a new offensive coordinator, hand him the ball late.
Thank God.
And they are looking most of all to Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson.
To be Lamar Jackson again.
If you're not going to win it now, when are you going to win it? Lamar Jackson is 3-5 in the playoffs. So I would say to you, sitting here now in the month of March, that the most pressure in the league is on 2 guys. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Josh Allen in Buffalo.
I agree with you.
Right? Especially now that Kansas City has made this
look
move.
what Buffalo did. They went out and got DJ Moore for the same purpose.
That's to make the run right now.
I hear you on Max Crosby. I just wouldn't want to spend a 1 and a 2. If you trust your scouting department, I'm sorry, 2 ones. Dallas tried a 1 and a 2, it didn't work.
It's a lot.
Tony, especially if like Baltimore, over 3 decades, you trust your scouting and you don't trade that pick. You keep it and you use it and you win 2 Super Bowls in your time in the league. Man, that's a lot.
It is. By the way, we didn't mention Tyler Linderbaum.
Linderbaum, that's right.
The senator who you could have used in Chicago.
Went to the Raiders.
Goes to the Raiders. Yeah. And what is being said about him is if they draft a rookie quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, then it makes sense to have a veteran.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, and they did need to beef up the offensive line. They get more on this on the Dan Patrick Show. We met Mike Tannenbaum, VSPN, former general manager of the Jets, former president of the Dolphins. He, too, very impressed by the Crosby situation and what it does for the Raiders.
He's exactly what you want for your locker room. He's a force multiplier. He's going to make everybody in that program better. The interesting thing, Dan, that no one's really talked about is Jesse Minter went from this nice, young, ascending coach that will have, a reasonable break-in period to, there is no honeymoon. The expectations for a rookie head coach have never been higher. If Lamar's healthy, he's a 2-time MVP. You have one of the 2 or 3 best pass rushers in the league. You have Derrick Henry, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, amongst others. This guy's honeymoon's about 10 minutes.
If you ran the Raiders, what do? You got more cap space than anybody. You got 2 first-round picks. We know what you're doing with one of them. What would you be leaning towards if you were running the team?
3 things: offensive line, offensive line, offensive line. I am drafting Mendoza, but I am not playing him. I would have kept Geno Smith, and here's why. If you go back last year, they gave up more sacks than any team. You could look at it from a few different metrics. Don't ruin Fernando Mendoza before he's ready. I think he has a chance on the upside, Dan, to be Matt Ryan, a taller guy, a good arm, a good athlete, not a great athlete. He's going to need a firm pocket. That's something that the Raiders have really struggled with. So why are we in a rush to play him? I would go out and get somebody else to start at least half the year and make sure that your offensive line is settled before you do anything with Mendoza, because you don't want to ruin his career before they have a chance to be good.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I've been using the Andrew Luck analogy that you had this future Hall of Fame quarterback. You just didn't have a very good offensive line, and it eventually caught up to both the Colts and Andrew Luck. Can you quietly shop the number 1 pick if you're the Raiders?
Yeah, I'm not so sure they have it. Just from teams, be it Arizona or the Jets, could just say, hey, run into them at the combine and say, look, we're not negotiating. Tell me what the bill is. Tell me what the price is. Is it 3 1s? Is it 4 1s? Chances are, teams are going to do that because I'm sure they're looking at it at a multi-year sort of view of what we had talked about when you think about Dante Moore next year, Arch Manning, Lenore Sellers, on and on and on. There'll probably be, I think, 5 or 6 first-round quarterbacks if they play, reasonably well this year. So I think part of what's going to hurt the Raiders from a leverage standpoint is teams are going to look at next year and say, we'll pay a premium, but we're not going to be unreasonable.
That's Mike Tannenbaum. Yeah, I mean, it cuts both ways. But if you're the Raiders and you are going to trade that pick, you want to trade him to a team that you know is going to be bad, so you can get into that quarterback lottery next year, the quarterbacks that he mentioned. So I think, because you don't usually see this very often. You don't see it at all, really, that the number one pick gets traded. I'm trying to remember. I can't even remember the last time the number one pick got traded. It just doesn't happen. There's just too much hype around it, and you fully expect Fernando Mendoza to wind up with the Raiders. Also, Tannenbaum said about the Baltimore situation that you got a coach coming in with more pressure than any rookie coach has ever had before. I would put up the name George Seifert. George Seifert took the job in San Francisco after the 49ers had beaten Cincinnati. That was the John Taylor touchdown catch in Miami. And he took over a Super Bowl winning team that was stacked with Joe Montana in his prime. And they were expected to win again the next year, and he did. That's the team that won 55-10 over the Denver Broncos. But I would say that George Seifert would probably have a little bit more pressure on him, and he delivered. The expectation was, hey, you got Joe Montana. You got a team that just won the Super Bowl. We expect you to win the Super Bowl again, which he did. More from Tannenbaum. This is on the situation in Minnesota and the situation with J.J. McCarthy, who's now entering year 3.
Did Minnesota miss on J.J. McCarthy? Like, it feels like we haven't said the quiet thing out loud yet, but it certainly feels like they realized they made a mistake.
Yeah, I'm not ready to go there yet. He started 10 games. I think we got to give him a grade of incomplete. He's incredibly young. I saw him practice probably 6 times at Michigan. He has attributes you can't see. He's a natural leader. He has poise about him. And I think there's too much upside to give up on him. Now, with that said, if we could go get Kyler Murray or Kirk Cousins, I'm going to have a competition. But, we've seen too many guys from Darnold, Geno Smith, Baker Mayfield, go to their 3rd and 4th team until, quote unquote, the light went on. And to me, we got to remember this, like, worst case scenario is not J.J. McCarthy not working out. It's him working out someplace else.
Yeah, that's true. But it feels like you're either good, really good with your team, or you know that you're going to be a backup quarterback, and then you're going to get your chance again. It feels like there's 2 buckets of quarterbacks. It's that guy's going to bounce around and be Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield or Geno Smith, or you are going to get that quarterback who is going to be with your franchise from start to finish.
Yeah, and how about this? Like, I just tweeted this a couple of minutes ago. This is a remarkable statistic. Kyler Murray is the 7th consecutive quarterback drafted 1st overall that wasn't on the team that drafted him by the age of 30. The last quarterback to be drafted 1st overall and still be on his team at 30 was Matt Stafford, and he was drafted going back to 2009. So it's really remarkable how hard it is to develop a quarterback. Now, Andrew Luck retired, but 7 quarterbacks in a row didn't make it to age of 30.
That is pretty remarkable, especially when you think when you take a quarterback number 1 overall, that he's your guy for the next 10 years. Even if you don't take him at 1, you take him in the first 5. There was a period of time here where in 2012, so what is that, 14 years ago, that you would have looked at 2026 and would have said, Robert Griffin III should be rounding out his Hall of Fame career by now. And he was really essentially a starter for 1 year, was a starter in 2013 before he got benched with 3 games to go. 2014, he was hurt part of the year, in and out, and didn't take a snap in 2015. And it can happen that way. Also, the free agency has changed a lot of things. We didn't have free agency in the NFL until 1993, so there really wasn't the danger of what you would have to pay these guys. Now, the other part of it is that you're now paying these guys a lot less coming in than you are now. Jamarcus Russell, I believe, was the year before Stafford or the year after. I can't remember. Maybe it was the year before. And then Stafford was the last guy to get this monstrous rookie contract for a quarterback. Now that they have it all slotted, it's under control, and they have the rookie salary cap, and a lot of it had to do with Jamarcus Russell being such a bust. But that has changed the game as well. that if you whiff on a quarter, I think that's part of the picture too. What Tannenbaum is describing there, where you have a 7 straight quarterbacks drafted number 1 overall, and Kyler Murray is the 7th straight not to make it to his 30th birthday with that team. I think some of that has to do with the fact that it's not as expensive to roll the roulette wheel again. Once you've paid these guys all that money, you're going to exhaust all possibilities that he can play. Now, it became apparent with Jamarcus Russell, not because of physical talent, but because of lack of commitment, that he wasn't going to make it. You know, the famous story of in those days, you were watching tape on DVD, and they gave him a DVD of some tape to watch at home, and they asked him, you know, what did you see? Did you learn anything? Oh, yeah. It turns out that it was blank, that they knew he wasn't going to watch it. So that's what ended it. But now that it doesn't cost you the kind of money to play the game at the top of the draft with a quarterback that it used to, then you can, cut the ties and move on quickly. That's why, we used to say tank for Tua, and now Tua's been tanked by the Dolphins, and they're eating $99 million because the next quarterback that they take at the top of the draft. Now, they did sign Malik Willis yesterday, so maybe Malik Willis works long-term for them, and they paid him good money. He's making, I think, $30 million a year. Maybe it works out for them, but if it doesn't, then they move to the top of the draft again, and they play the game once again with a top draft pick and see if you can develop them into a quarterback. That's going to do it for me. I'll be back here tomorrow with the recap of day 2 of the legal tampering period. I'll see you then at 9 a.m.